Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. Now, regular listeners might remember a company called Scalefast, and they're a company that have been changing the way brands do direct-to-consumer e-commerce. And they've been doing that by empowering them to regain the control and simplicity that they need to create those exceptional shopping experiences directly from their online storefront. Now, if we go back into 2019, I think it was episode 1057, I invited Michael Schwartz onto the podcast to talk about the ways that DTCs can navigate subscription services successfully. But 2 years later, this time around, I've invited Dan Wallace-Brewster from Scalefast onto the podcast to talk about the state of the retail industry, because the last time I spoke to the guys at Scalefast, the world was a very different place. Retail was a very different place. We all know what happened next. So, as we continue to navigate around these new waves of COVID and face the upcoming holiday season and supply chain issues and so many other things going on there, I wanted to find out a little bit more. And ultimately, the role of technology in helping smooth things along. So, buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to California, where Dan is waiting to speak with us now. So, a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Thanks, Neil. This is Dan Brewster. I'm the SVP of Marketing for Scalefast. We are an end-to-end e-commerce solution provider based in El Segundo, California. And we've really focused on building out some custom e-commerce solutions for brands going direct to consumer.
And a question I always like to begin in asking my guests on the podcast is, can I ask that you share your origin story and where your passion for tech came from and what put you on this path you're on today?
Yeah, it's actually a surprising path. I started off in public relations and worked in sports and event marketing for the first half of my career. And in doing that, one of my responsibilities was typically the website. And not to date myself, but that was the first time that commerce was really being transacted on the web in terms of event sales, ticket sales, and merchandise sales. So I was deploying e-commerce solutions for professional and collegiate athletic teams for 7 or 8 years before I realized that I was no longer in sports marketing. I was in e-commerce, and ended up working for a couple of different platforms specific to the event and travel space before landing at GSI Commerce, which was a real pioneer in the e-commerce business. Michael Rubin, the founder, is now a billionaire after selling the company to eBay, and he's gone on to build Fanatics as a real powerhouse in the sports merchandising space. So in doing that, really gotten the opportunity to work for some pioneering technologies in e-commerce, both on the brand and product agency side. And it's been exciting. There's never a dull moment.
What a great story. And of course, that path did lead you to Scalefast. And as we were saying before we began recording today, I first spoke to representatives from Scalefast, I think way back in 2019, when the world was a very different place to what it is now. But can you tell the listeners that have missed our previous conversations a little bit about the kind of problems that you solve for your customers with Scalefast?
Yeah, Scalefast really was built to address a unique problem in the gaming space. So one of our original clients was Square Enix, and they have the Final Fantasy franchise. And the fans of that franchise are quite passionate. And when there's a new release, they are very ready to overwhelm the infrastructure of a site to get their products downloaded. So Scalefast's platform really addressed the ability or the need to deliver a combination of both digital and physical items in a single cart. That is not something that every e-commerce platform can do, especially at extremely high transaction volumes. And so they went out and tried to solve that problem. And in so doing, they've solved a lot of needs of the e-commerce space, especially brands going direct to consumer, specifically the need to sell a lot of things very quickly and then fulfill them very equally quickly, meaning getting that product out to customers in their expected timeline.
And as we continue to navigate more waves of COVID and face the upcoming holiday season, can you tell me a bit more about the state of the retail industry right now, just before all our inboxes get hit with Black Friday and Cyber Monday emails, and what the industry is actively doing to bounce back?
Yeah, I think that we're in an interesting phase where retailers are actually enjoying higher profitability than they have in quite some time. The reason being is the limited supply is allowing them to sustain higher prices. And the almost decades-long retail apocalypse, as it was termed when e-commerce started to emerge, has really been staved off by the ability of retailers to maintain higher prices. And I think the way that consumers respond to that over time, and of course, how economies respond to it, because if it results in unbridled inflation, and that of course has negative impacts, but it is going to be the theme of retail in 2022, that's for sure.
And can you tell me a bit more about the concept of specialty stores? It's something we're seeing more and more of right now. And I'm interested in learning more about that and ultimately how retailers can use them to their advantage during this holiday season too.
I think it's always been a little bit of the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow to find a way for digital commerce to differentiate or provide a unique value proposition to brick and mortar commerce. How do these two channels work together to create more than the sum of their parts? And one of the things that digital commerce is able to do is personalize by understanding a customer's previous usage or consumption of content and items, even in the basket. They can create a unique experience digitally that isn't really feasible to do in a brick and mortar store. You can't necessarily change the window for each individual user. We're not in that level of futuristic space yet, although I believe we will be there sometime soon, where each individual in a store can get a unique experience. But you can do that on the web today. And what happens is that websites tend to over-rely on algorithms to make generalizations about what a customer wants. And really, it's about going back to the basics and understanding or giving that customer the ability to indicate exactly what they want before they even enter the store. And creating specialty stores gives the customer the ability to tell the merchant exactly what they want from the outset of that experience. And that merchant can then deliver a much shorter purchase cycle, give them a lot more of what they want, and experience higher conversion rates, higher margins, all of the things that you would want from a customer that you're personalizing or giving them a very unique experience. So that's really what we've done. We've identified through a variety of demonstrated customer needs, stores that address employee discounts or product drops or pre-sales or re-commerce. These are all unique functions that a merchant doesn't necessarily want as a part of their flagship web store. It can alienate full price customers or create conflicts in fulfillment policies or service level expectations from different customers and different audiences. So by creating these specialty stores, as we've called them, we can all of a sudden create a very easy pop-up shop, for example, that handles the specific needs of a unique audience with a very unique expectation.
And I think so much has changed in the last 18 months with so many lockdowns and stay-at-home measures put in place. Live commerce is something that grabbed the attention of shoppers all over the world for all the right reasons. And then on the back of that, we saw technology and social media all playing the part in the rise of something called shoppertainment to engage with consumers in different ways. And in some instances, that has become a new expectation from retailers. But can you tell me a little bit more about your observations around that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that we've long understood the value of shoppertainment. I mean, QVC has been around for decades, and it's really the digital application or the convergence of e-commerce with that type of hosted shopping experience. And that has allowed the channels that can support it to create whole new business channels that they hadn't previously experienced. So YouTube, clearly the leader in that space, but their parent company, Google, doesn't mind, given that they're one of the top shopping engines right next to Amazon. So it is a natural confluence of those technologies. And I expect as influencers get the ability to do more and more of this to be a permanent part of what retail is going forward.
And as somebody right in the heart of the industry, are there any other big retail tech trends that you've noticed right now and over the last few months?
I mean, certainly, I think that the digital metaverse type products is going to be the big story coming out of certainly Facebook, but just in the industry at large going forward. I think fundamentally, we're going to see a massive growth in the number of things you can buy because there's going to be a broad acceptance of virtual and augmented reality type products that you can't physically hold, that don't need shelves, that you don't have to drive a car to get. They're accessible through your phone or your video game or your desktop or your TV. And we don't even know the types of products that are going to be transacted 1 or 2 years from now. They're going to be high-end, like NFTs, that can be extremely collectible and unique one-offs. Or the things that you're seeing today is commonplace in your kids' games, which is like skins, where you can uniquely identify yourself with clothes or other items that they're more fashionable, but really have no tangible value in the outside world. But they do cost money, and they cost real money. Companies like Roblox have kind of set the path. Brands like Gucci have invested heavily in these types of digital luxury goods. And we're going to see a massive expansion of that when Facebook repositions to really own that metaverse. You're going to see just a broad acceptance of it, multi-generations. And when you do that, there's going to be a lot of people there to fill that demand.
And over here in the UK, I remember Primark, I think last year, lost 650 million in retail earnings because they didn't have an online presence as such. And there's going to be a lot of companies looking to bounce back after so much downtime. And as a rule, if we look back throughout the history of Black Friday and Cyber Monday, etc., there's big companies such as Macy's that went offline at that critical moment and it cost them a fortune. And As listeners are bracing for those incoming of emails, brands are going to be incredibly nervous about downtime during the busiest time of the year. Nobody wants to be that brand that goes down. And the reason I mention this is I read a great article by you. I think it was on Forbes, and the title was "Now is the time to button up your direct-to-consumer brand data security." But can you expand on the takeaways of the article for the listeners, for anyone that's not read it?
Yeah, I mean, certainly the takeaway is that criminals take advantage of the highest transaction volume during the year to really sharpen their tools and take advantage of consumers. This is when brand sites are at their weakest. This is when consumer transactional volume is at its highest. There's more volume of transactions, though that means it's harder to identify anomalies, both through algorithms and just overall monitoring. So it's very important that merchants have a solution set that involves both algorithmic-based solutions, but also really highly trained experts that can identify when things look not only abnormal, but look abnormal for the circumstances you're in, whether that be a flash sale, for example, like Black Friday, where you have an extremely high volume of transactions, and it's very easy for criminals to kind of slip in to that high traffic and take advantage of both customers and brands. So really don't underspend on the expertise to manage that, especially going forward, because the more dollars that get put into e-commerce and digital commerce in general, the more likely there will be criminals to follow to take advantage of it.
So true. And I was reading recently that a data breach can actually could be responsible for a brand or business for taking 2 to 3 years to recover from a data breach like that. But it will be a worrying time for many, but great advice there. And I've got to ask for Scalefast. I mean, what's next for you all there? Is there anything you can share about the road ahead and what your big focus is going to be?
I think that there are going to be future specialty store use cases that we haven't even conceived yet. The ability for merchants to spin up these stores inexpensively and quickly is something that's fairly new. The core flagship website was always somewhat of a monolith and very expensive. A lot of time necessary to create any customization. And we've really created the ability to meet consumer needs where they are very quickly, very inexpensively. So you're going to see offshoots of the main flagship store that address these consumer needs in a variety of ways that we haven't even conceived yet.
Love that. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. But before I let you go, as we began the podcast talking about your origin story, I always like to finish by asking my guests, what is the soundtrack to that origin story? Is there a song or piece of music that has inspired you in the past, helps you get your head in the zone, or just an important song to you that we can add to our Spotify playlist and maybe inspire other tech leaders out there? What would your song be and why?
Well, I'm afraid it's not horribly original, but I've left and come back to California several times, so it has to be Hotel California by the Eagles.
Oh, what a great choice! Is it because you can check in, but you could never leave? Has it got anything to do with that?
That's exactly right. I don't think I'll ever be able to leave California, especially now that I can work from home and work remotely. I don't think I'll ever leave California.
Excellent. And for everyone listening that would like to find out more information about Scalefast, the work you're doing, or any of the topics we explored today, what's the best starting point?
Visit us at scalefast.com. We have multiple places where you can reach out to our team, ask questions, or set up a demonstration or discussion of our products.
Excellent. Well, I'll have that link to the show notes so people can find you nice and easily. I love chatting with you today. Yes, about the concept of specialty stores and how retailers can use them to their advantage and exploring retail tech trends, etc. But more than anything, for sharing your very human story behind it all and that career in technology, and a great tune to add on our playlist too. So thanks for sharing that with me today.
Thank you, Neil. Have a great day.
I don't know about you all listening, but I found that really interesting, that focus on the concept of specialty stores and how retailers can actually use them to their advantage this holiday season. And I think these specialty stores, which are essentially concepts like pre-orders, pre-sales, flash sales, and even re-commerce opportunities, and are something that we're going to be seeing more and more of. But please, let me know your thoughts. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast today. And remember to check out Hirect, the sponsors of this month's podcast. The Hirect app uses advanced data technology to efficiently match job seekers and recruiters, all based on their preferences and behaviour. Rather than hanging around in your inbox, you get curated candidate recommendations that fit your job requirements. And their technology also means you can chat directly with ideal candidates in much the same way as you would on something like WhatsApp. And in doing so, you accelerate the hiring process up to 10 times faster than traditional ways. So for me, anything that eases pressure on the already bulging inbox and waiting around for replies, worrying if they've gone to the spam folder, has to be a great thing. Remember, you can download Hirect from the Apple and Google Play Store for free. Give it a try. Let me know what you think. So email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com. My website is techblogwriter.co.uk. Keep your questions, comments, insights, experiences coming over. But a big thank you for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.